Here is the 2-hour price chart for Super Microcomputer Incorporated, stock ticker SMCI. Here we can see that we're kind of flatlining here. This price action is turning relatively sideways here after a period of strong gains that we're seeing previously. Overall, if we're going to point to the longer term timeframes here, I would suggest that this is mostly looking consolidative in nature. It kind of looks like we're taking stair steps higher here. So, overall, this would be kind of the prior main congestion zone or consolidation zone. Um, and now we've probably moved up to more of this area here. So as we can see overall, this is a significant positive development. It is definitely more of a positive than it is a negative because, previously we would have been trading at roughly 275 during periods of consolidation. And now we're trading significantly higher, like more like, we're trading more in the region of $850 during periods of sideways consolidation. So overall, this is a positive development, but it's probably seems to feel a bit maybe disappointing for traders that might have gotten in at somewhat lower levels relative to current prices, maybe around 730 or thereabouts. Overall, it is a bit of a confusing price chart because we are seeing some conflicting signals here in both directions. That's not totally surprising. Periods of sideways consolidation that does represent a period of indecision in the market. It generally means that the market is basing for the next significant price move in one direction or the other. And then we do also have the fact that short prices themselves are kind of oscillating around the moving average cluster. We'll see slight periods where we're below the moving averages, and then we might see a small break above this area, and then back below. So overall here, what we're not seeing is a clearly decisive break in one direction or another. Overall, I would still err on the side of a positive bias here, and I'll explain why. I'll explain why I believe this to be the case. So, while we do have some downside selling pressure here, we do have a bit of a negative reading in the momentum indicator. This condition would have started toward the middle of May, roughly May 15th, and then extend into the second half of June. And we really haven't broken out of this shorter term condition, but we do see that the longer term condition does remain positive and it does remain bullish. So in addition to that fact, we have the relative strength index that's currently trading right almost directly at the midpoint of the histogram. We're trading very close to the 50 level here, as we can see. I mean, we're just slightly above it. So this does suggest that there's plenty of room to extend in both directions. But we do have the relative strength index itself moving above its own moving average. So if we're not familiar with these terms, I'll just try to explain this quickly. The yellow line is the moving average of the relative strength index, which is the purple line here. So the purple line is the relative strength index, and then the yellow line is the moving average. And in cases where the relative strength index itself moves above its moving average, that would be a bullish signal. So overall, if we're going to be looking at trend momentum here, there is more positive than negative because we do have some negative signals here, but they're smaller in nature. They're more shorter term. It's more of a short term reading. These readings are shorter term in nature. So overall, the balance of the evidence does still favor the top side. Even though we're kind of flattening out here, right in line with the moving averages. That said, we have broken some shorter term chart patterns, as we can see here. We did break an uptrend price channel, and we did start to fall lower. But what's encouraging here is the fact that we really didn't break to new lows. We've got a bit of a spike low here that does break a bit the upward sloping trend line that has been in place since this would be roughly April 22nd. So we did see a bit of a spike below here, but I would refer to this as really a false break because the resulting bounce was fairly significant, and we did actually move above. It was brief, but we did move above the exponential moving average cluster in that process. We broke to some short-term highs. Prior resistance levels were being seen at 850.50, $850.50. So, when we see that type of price action, I tend to refer to these types of downside breaks as a false breakout. So, in my view, this uptrend still remains supportive. It's kind of a weak trend line. I mean, it's almost like a sideways trend line. But to the top side, resistance has really moved down to just above 970. So, you can almost call this, an ascending triangle pattern. The reason I was a bit reluctant to refer to this situation in that way would be due to the fact that we did see this breakout here. But in my view, this is a false breakout in the upward direction. I mean, we're seeing some very erratic price action here. This is why I have this line drawn here because, it was a fairly substantial move to the downside. And we did break a double top, which had formed at roughly 970. So, we're getting some conflicting signals here. I mean, and that's not totally surprising. I mean, if you look at the history of this stock, there is a lot of volatility that's associated with this stock, and that's in both directions. Overall, the trend has been positive. I've been bullish on this name since it was trading around $35. They make an excellent product. They've got great exposure to the artificial intelligence space, the industrial artificial intelligence space. I mean, this isn't like an AMD or something like that where more of the focus is placed on, kind of budget gaming, hardware and things like that. I mean, these Supermicro makes some pretty serious products. Um, dual CPU motherboards, and you can fill large amounts of RAM in the motherboards and things like that. I mean, these are very serious products, and this it's the type of hardware that really will benefit from continued trends in industrial AI application. So overall, I'm definitely bullish on the picture, but we have to remember that this stock has had some extreme periods of volatility, and it can be a very difficult stock to trade. I'm not saying you shouldn't trade it. I do trade it myself. I actually think that this type of volatility creates opportunities in both directions. But you do have these circumstances here where you might see false breakouts, and we've seen two relatively recently on the shorter term timeframes. So overall, I am looking at their momentum reading as being positive. We do still have this upward sloping trend line that I believe remains valid. And what we really need to see here is a clear break above roughly the 975 level, which should force us back into the 1000s, and then we can ultimately focus back on a retest of the all-time highs. So here's the current market analysis for Supermicro Computer Incorporated, stock ticker SMCI.